Let's talk to James Price, former government advisor. I don't think I'd be calling James working class. James, very good morning to you.
I'm a social mobility success story, Mike. You know that.
Excellent. Well, in that case, you could be never criticised by anybody on the grounds that you've done so well for yourself that it's just jealousy that's making people have a go at you because you managed to make something of your life. I mean, this story is quite extraordinary to me. There's so many questions, so many things that are not transparent, so many situations that would suggest to me, at the very least, even if I was going to be charitable, that Angela Rayner has got quite a complicated series of financial transactions going on here, all of which seem to be being referred to by a wealth management company, which doesn't sound terribly working class to me, I'm afraid.
No, absolutely not. It's tough to know where to begin with any of this, isn't it? Firstly, this idea that she should be able to hide, as you alluded to then, behind her background or the difficulties she's had in life or any of the rest of it, as if those things are mitigating circumstances, right? As if something terrible happened to me, I'm allowed to go and do bad, wrong, or immoral or stupid things.
Right.
Well, maybe that is a good argument, and maybe we should all be a lot more forgiving and a lot more full of Christian grace and things like that. But it was, of course, Angela Rayner who was the attack dog for the Labour Party over every mistake that every other politician has made over the last 10 years or so. And most notably and painfully for me, I worked for Nadhim Zahawi when he himself was forced to quit the government over an issue involving taxes. And was Angela Rayner kind then? No, she made herself the arch hypocrite in all of this. And actually, Nadhim tweeted out last night after Angela Rayner was saying, oh, well, this is difficult for my kids, and said, well, did you ever think about my children? Right? Because without going into too many details, whenever a politician goes through a scandal like this, it's incredibly difficult for their families and their friends and all the rest of it as well. And when you've got paparazzi-type photographers camping outside someone's house where there's a small child living, it's obviously incredibly distressing. But I didn't see Angela Rayner caring about that a few years ago when it was all just fun politics for her. So I think the hypocrisy is massive to start with.
And that is definitely the order of the day this morning. I mean, lots of people writing in the papers, you know, that she's definitely a hypocrite, but she may also be a liar, which has, of course, much worse implications for her, because what she hasn't done is revealed exactly how all this came about. And let's not forget that you can go all the way back to when she had the 2 council houses, you know, years ago. There were questions about that which were never fully and properly answered. It now appears that there's some kind of trust that was set up. There was some kind of 11-year battle for compensation from NHS Foundation Trust in Stockport. You know, nobody knows how much that settlement was, but she appears to have used some of it to buy a new flat in Hove for her and her boyfriend. It's all terribly murky.
Well, exactly. And I think this is another big difference as well, that the system is way too complicated. All of these systems are. The law is now very difficult for normal people to be able to understand. Those of us who couldn't afford fancy wealth advisors like Angela Rayner has been able to. The law is very complicated. All of the kind of rules and regulations are. There are huge numbers of loopholes. If you work in the City of London, you'd know that the kind of compliance bit of professional services is the only bit that's been growing really for a long time, because this mad morass and growth of regulations that are kind of killing off growth is a real problem as well. And that means that the wealthy are able to kind of hide bits of money here and move things around there. It's all way too complicated, and that could maybe one benefit of all of this. This could become a kind of bipartisan or non-partisan issue, right? Simplify the tax code. Hong Kong's tax code is about 113 pages. Britain's is about 70,000 or something like that. Right? I'm not even exaggerating.
Well, they've added quite a bit to it since July of last year when they came in, most notably an increase in stamp duty liability because they lowered the thresholds. And they also made it very clear that if you had more than one home, you would be liable to pay more stamp duty. Now, surely that can't have passed Angela Rayner by when all of those things were being debated and explained.
Right. Well, again, another point. Either there's a massive hypocrisy here, or it's the fact that she's just completely in over her head and has no idea what's going on in her department. I've got no insight into which one of those it might be. I would venture, though, that neither of them are particularly good options. If you've got a deputy prime minister who's so feckless she doesn't understand what the government is doing, or you've got someone, again, who is being, at best, hypocritical, although I'm sure staying within the limits of the law. I'll make another comparison with my old boss Zahawi again. He was found to be in the same category as Angela Rayner in this careless and non-deliberate because everything is so complicated. Was there that kind of grace and clemency for him? Absolutely not. Should there therefore be any for Angela Rayner? I suspect her constituents, who are now more so aware that she's actually spending most of her time living over 300 miles away, may also not be in the most forgiving mood for her.
Yeah. And also, she's been very deliberate in her explanations as to where her main home is. Her main home, according to her, is in Ashton-under-Lyne in Greater Manchester. It is not in London, where she appears to spend an awful lot of time not with her son and not with her family, because she calls that a family home in Ashton-under-Lyne, and she only visits it when she's looking after the kids. The rest of the time, she doesn't live there. And yet it's still classed as her main residence for the purposes of council tax. You know, she then decides to buy another flat somewhere near London, because she works in London a lot, even though she's got a flat in London provided to her by the government and by taxpayers, which she would pay a higher rate of council tax on if she declared it to be her main residence. At the moment, she declares it not to be her main residence, so we pay her council tax. You know, this is not a woman who's unsophisticated when it comes to finance, and she knows exactly what she's doing.
Right. Again, it's so complicated, isn't it? And again, in a normal situation, I wouldn't criticize anybody for doing this, right? I'd go so far, I'm a mad right winger. I'd go so far as to say that tax avoidance, even aggressive tax avoidance, is not just a perfectly legal thing to do. I would say it was a perfectly moral thing to do. That if you've earned that money, that you should get to keep as much of it as you can. And when we see how much the damn government wastes of our money, it's not going on the schools and hospitals that people might be more okay paying tax for. We see and we talk week in, week out, Mike, about all the horrendous uses of our money. So normally, right, I'd be fine with people avoiding as much tax. Consider it a rebate. Consider it just.
I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. But what I would disagree with you on is if that avoidance results in the taxpayer then funding something which otherwise they would not do, then that is not in the spirit of right-wing sort of financial freedom. That is in the spirit of Stalinist. You little people can pay for everything that I do. You can pay for my television. You can pay for my garden furniture. You can pay for my porn films. You can pay for all of my expenses. Because I'm the servant of the nation and I deserve it.
Right, exactly, and this is where that last bit of hypocrisy comes in. If you're a big state person, as Angela Rayner obviously ideologically and undoubtedly is, this is just yet more hypocrisy. And what was it she said on the platform of the Labour Party a few years ago? One rule for them, one rule for everybody else. Yeah. Oh, how the worm has turned, eh? Well, and I think therefore she deserves all the criticism that is coming her way. She has been totally remorseless when it comes to dealing with her opponents, and all these things are coming back to roost.
Yeah, and absolutely. We've got that one rule for them, a clip, I think. Let's have a look.
There's only one rule with this cabinet, and that is that there's one rule for them and one rule for all of us.
And when she's talking about all of us, I assume she means all of those people who get the wrong tax advice and don't pay the stamp duty that they were supposed to pay at the beginning.
Happens to all of us down the dog and duck every night of the week, doesn't it? Right, again, and this is the bit that, you have the authentic working class, all this kind of rhetoric. Well, it's just not true, right? She has a lot of expenses, as you say, to pay for a home. Actually, as the Deputy Prime Minister, she now has a very swanky, what they call grace and favour home paid for. She's got the government ministerial car. She's got all of this stuff. She's got every expectation of a glittering future post-politics, either on the speech-giving circuit or whatever else she may want to do. Construction, very lucrative. If she spent any time at all thinking about her housing brief rather than sort of scheming against her political opponents, because I'll note that a week or so ago she put a bit of legislation into a bill that she's pushing through that will ban Sadiq Khan and Andy Burnham and other Metro mayors from also being MPs. So she thought she'd killed off a couple of competitors for Keir Starmer's job when he inevitably has to fall on his sword in a few years' time. So she could have all this stuff coming for her, and therefore I think she'll probably be all right. She can cry into one of these many homes that she's got coming her way.
And what do you think is going to happen here? Because I find it hard to believe that she can still stay in this job. I mean, despite all the kind of jiggery-pokery that goes on inside the corridors of power, I think most people now look at this and see a chancer somebody who has taken advantage of a situation and is now pretending to sort of, play all innocent and claim that she got the wrong advice. Some very good questions in The Sun today about this advice that she got, because apparently she got it from a very reasonably well thought of, legal operation. And they're saying, was this original legal team in possession of the full facts to offer the correct advice? So it's entirely possible that she didn't tell them everything that she should have told them. And then they're also saying, which law firm advised you to pay the lower stamp duty rate? Were they not property tax experts? And if they weren't, why would you take advice from them?
Yeah, also all very, very good questions, and ones that, even if this were just a kind of careless mistakes, in not asking the right lawyers the right questions, is that someone we want being the Deputy Prime Minister? I think it also questions her judgment, her ability to run the department that she's currently entrusted unto her deputy leadership of the Labour Party, which will actually, I think, be separate from her being the Deputy Prime Minister and the Housing Secretary, because that's a kind of directly elected position. So we may be in a situation where her running that department and being Deputy Prime Minister becomes untenable, but she stays on as Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, which means a kind of lingering bad smell for everything. But I just, if you were Keir Starmer and you were best mates with Angela Rayner and you thought she was great and you were working in lockstep, you might think that it's worth expending all that political capital, all that blood and anguish to keep her in place. But from everything I've heard, it was the Number 10 operation who leaked all those photos of her lounging around in a small boat and getting lashed on the beach the other week, because she's been so disloyal to Starmer. So I suspect this would be a perfect opportunity for him to give her the old heave-ho, and I think she'll be gone by the end of the week.
I think she's going to have to, because I don't see any way of her coming back. And Dan Hodges has written this in the Mail as well, that, if she had gone and admitted a bit earlier that there was a problem, as opposed to making people go out and fight on her behalf to tell everybody how horrible we all were for attacking a very nice, hard-working, working-class woman, strong working-class woman, no less. As Dan Hodges said, her rehabilitation would have been quicker. Now, if she goes now, she's out for a very long time. He's saying, though, that he'll do everything he can to keep her. I mean, I know Keir Starmer is not a very genuine individual, but maybe he doesn't mean that.
Yeah. You're suggesting that Keir Starmer would say something that he doesn't mean, Mike?
I've got some evidence to back up that he has done that once or twice in the past. I mean, it's hard to believe, isn't it? It really is. Let's just hope for the best, though, because if he loses Angela Rayner and Rachel Reeves, then this whole kind of, the first woman chancellor thing is all going to go up the swanny, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, this is the bit, I've said this a lot before. We've got this budget coming at the end of November, which means many more months now of speculation about how awful it's going to be, and markets reacting badly, and people realising that Britain is a complete basket case. That's not a good thing. But if Rachel Reeves does go after that, I've said this many times, she's still the best they've got, I think, when it comes to the economy. She's still the only person in the cabinet who's ever had any actual private sector experience. She's had half as much as she claimed on her CV she had, but still more than the rest of them. So if she goes, who on earth gets put in her place? Who on earth gets put in Angela Rayner's place if she's got to go? Because Labour's record so far on house building has been so bad that the head of the Labour house building campaign, Chris Worrell, defected to the Conservative Party a few weeks ago, and what I thought was quite a brave decision, because that's how hapless Angela Rayner's department has been at actually fixing the housing crisis we all know we've got to sort out.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. How about this for a question from Shane in Lincolnshire? He said, morning, Mike. If incorrect legal advice is a valid defence for Angela Rayner, does this mean that Lucy Connolly can also claim the same and ask for trial by jury and potentially have her conviction overturned?
It's a very, very good point. A very, very good point. And it is this kind of one rule for them, one rule for us stuff coming up again. One may even go so far as to call it two-tier justice.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be careful, though, because when you ask Keir Starmer if there's two-tier justice, he just goes, no! Like some kind of demented dog. He can't stand it.
The same man who told Donald Trump a few weeks ago that we've got lots of free speech in this country, and then, lo and behold, under his premiership, a comedian gets arrested for some tweets.
I know, it's just laughable, isn't it? If it wasn't such a disaster, we would be falling about laughing. But the trouble is, they're taking the country with them down the gurgler, which is no use to any of us. Listen, James, great to talk to you.